I got pregnant. Now that's when he changed to admit. But the moment I was calling him and texting him, I didn't ignore, by the way.
To break the news to him.
Kept calling. Dakika mwisho in hiyo tu, the words that he used, I'll get rid of you.
I'll get rid of you. Because of going to the police.
Because of going to the police.
In May 2023, this young girl right here meets a man. He asked her for directions, but then he also asked her for a phone number. Based on what she knows and her experience right now, if she knew that at that moment, she would have chosen a different path. So she's here to share her story with us about her experience with this Nigerian man and how that story unfolded. Karibu sana Ann to the show.
Thank you so much.
Pole sana for the experience, because I mean, this is how people meet the love of their lives.
Yeah.
And when you meet somebody and they ask for your number or they ask for you to help them with something, you do not anticipate it will, you know,
end up
like this.
Yes.
What happened? And first of all, before you tell us what happened, could you tell us a little about yourself? Who is Ann?
So my name is Ann. Actually, I'm Patrice. I'm a fashionista, a businesswoman, and also a student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you come from?
I come from Laikipia County, a place called Nanyuki. Yeah, that's where I was raised. Yeah.
So in Nairobi, you're here for school and a bit of business.
Business, hustling here and there, yeah.
So on that particular day, you're just going about your business.
Yeah.
Take us through nini ilifanyika hiyo siku ukiwa tu shughuli zako pale Nairobi. It was in Nairobi. Nini ilifanyika?
Actually, so I was just running my errands as usual. Nimesimama tu waiting for someone there, minding my own business actually. Then somebody just drove towards me. Yeah. Actually mimi sikuwa najua hata anakuja kwangu. Mimi nidhani anaenda shughuli zake park, maybe anangoja mtu ama something like that.
Yeah.
So hata vile alikuja tu, mimi nika-ignore, nikaendelea tu kusimama.
Because huyu si mtu mwenye ulikuwa unangoja.
Si mtu nilikuwa nangoja. Actually, somebody actually that I don't know. So mimi nikakaa tu, minding my own business. So until the moment alifika mahali niko, akashukisha kioo. Then he was like, hi, how are you? Then I was like, hi, I'm good. Okay, I was asking for direction. Where's lounge? So I kept quiet because I'm like, Vera lounge, umeacha tu Vera lounge, you know. But I was like, okay, because I was very ill and all that, so kutaka a lot of things. So I was like, okay, let me just show you. So I was kind enough to show him the directions, though I knew it doesn't add up. So I showed him for directions and all that. Then he was like, okay, can I have your number if you don't mind? So I was like, okay, it's okay. So nikamwachia number. Then I went back to my business.
Yeah.
Na yeye akaenda business zake.
At that point ulikushajua huyu ni Nigeria, huyu ni
Yeah. Actually I could tell because of the accent. Unajua English yao. Yeah, West Africa na Kenya it's different. Yeah, so I noticed he's West Africa. And actually he didn't even text me that day. He texted me the following day. Yeah.
Anasema nini sasa wakati?
Hi, good and all that. Nikamwambia I'm good and all that. Though I'm sick and all that. Actually hata kwa najua niko sick. Nikamwambia I'm sick, lakini niko sawa. That's how the conversation started. Yeah. Na
mliongea for how long before mwanze kuambia na now we can meet, we are ready to meet?
Yeah. The following day alianza kuni text. Kuniambia hivyo na hivyo. Even ndo alianza tu kunitext na kuuliza if you can meet. It started actually the following day after I gave him my number. Yeah.
Ulikuwa comfortable at that point?
I wasn't comfortable because I was still stressed up. I was still like, I guess this is a trap, because how can just someone out of nowhere amekuja tu just straight to where you are asking for direction. Na kwanza hiyo direction yenye aliuliza, it was just yani kwenye alitoka tu ilikuwa tu hapo, so
ilikuwa obvious tu.
It was obvious, so I was like, hey, mtu simuone vizuri, unaona. So vile ali continue tu kunijulia hali, text me and there, I was texting back actually. But when it comes to can we meet and all that, nilikuwa naambia yes we can. At first nilikuwa naambia it won't be possible because actually I was ill for a month, for a very long time. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry I can't meet you because I'm not feeling well. Actually he was like, okay, I'm so sorry and all that, get well soon. He was so nice and all that, but he didn't didn't give up. He still continued calling me and texting me and all. That was actually, nakumbuka siku moja aliniambia, "Hey, a friend of mine, he's having a birthday and all that. Do you mind if you can come hang out?" Nikamwambia, "Hey, I don't think I can come cause saizi vile niko I'm too weak and all that. Sioni kama nitaenda mahali." He was like, "It's okay. When you get well, just let me know, we can meet." But he kept actually kunitext kunijulia hali. "Hey Anne, how are you? How are you feeling today?" and all that. Alinitext kunijulia hali. So I was like, maybe it's not bad at all cause ananijulia hali and all that. So the moment nili feel a little better, really like I'm ready to go somewhere and all that, ndo akanitext nikamwambia, "It's okay, let's meet tomorrow." So we met actually, and he took me to a decent place. That was Garden City. That was actually our first met up, a decent place. Tukaenda hapo, we had a small talk and all that. So that's when he took me to where he was living. No, hata hiyo bado doubt sasa vile tumeongea and all that, na vile tumepatana na yeye vile anaongea, you can tell maybe he's not a bad person.
So he was able to mask all that, the
niceness and all that. So I was like, I don't think he's a bad person and all that. And then I've taken my time. Like I met him 1 month later. So I was like, I think he's not too bad. Yeah, he's not that bad. So we went to where he was staying. That was along USIU, opposite Safari Park Estate. So we went there. He treated me nicely the first day, watch movies, you know. So, hey, the deal was too good. I didn't suspect anything at all. So after that, the next day, I left his house, went back to my own place. Then, bado tunaendelea, kuchat. He kept on inviting me and all that, asking me if we can go for a movie, you know. So tukaanza tu kumeet. Movie, okay, let's go.
It's a harmless movie.
It's a harmless movie. Okay, so mimi nilikuwa naenda. Okay, hivyo can we meet? It's okay. But then tena cause nilikuwa mgonjwa, tena ile ugonjwa ikanirudia, so tena nilifika place nikapose kumeet. But hata kama nilipose kumeet, bado we were still chatting, communicating and all that, to a point that alikuwa ananiambia, "Hey, you know Anne, since we met last time, sijatoka kwa nyumba." I'm like, but
anasema kwa nini tu?
Alikuwa anasema he was working on some projects and all that. Mimi nikamwamini, you know. Actually it reached to a place where it was my birthday. Nikamwambia, actually that time he was supposed to take me out, but nikamwambia, I'm going out with some relatives of mine and friends to Mombasa. Maybe we can meet after that. So anakumbuka nikaenda Mombasa, had fun. When I came back, actually kanipigia, "You back and all that, I want to take you out and buy your present and all that." Nikamwambia, "It's okay." And we met. We went actually to the same place where he was living.
Hii time yote, had you met any of his friends, and had he told you what he does for a living?
His friends, no. But he had told me actually what he was doing for a living, which was coding. Hivyo tu ndo aliniambia he was doing coding and all that. So I believed him.
Okay.
Yeah. But mimi hiyo time yote tumekaa na yeye sikuwa na akifanya coding. So but I don't know. Because when he fall asleep, he was staying awake the whole night. So I think maybe
the whole night
he wasn't sleeping.
Kwa laptop.
He wasn't sleeping. So maybe
anaficha vitu anafanya, but if you wake up, he'll just continue with his business.
If I wake up, he'll continue with all.
But you would not really tell
what he was doing. Because hata mimi kuniambia coding, actually I didn't know what coding was. Najua tu ni something to do with software or something, but I don't know vizuri.
So akakupeleka out the same place.
Akanipeleka out the same place. Then we went actually to the same house again. Na mimi all time si suspect anything until now. Kuna siku nilitoka kwake, nimeka kwake, it was like 3 days. Imagine nimeka kwa mtu 2-3 days. Everything is okay, mnakaa and all that. Until sasa hiyo siku nikitoka kwake, nikifika kwa gate, the watchman actually wakanisimamisha.
So ulikuwa ukitoka peke yako tuanze hapo?
Nilikuwa natoka tu peke yangu, Uber na ningoja hapo nje. Naenda, but that day nilisimamishwa. Okay, nikasimamishwa nikasalimika, akaniuliza, "Hai, uko nini? Umetoka house number fulani? Umetoka kwa nani?" Nikamwambia mimi nimetoka house number fulani kwa mtu fulani. Akaniuliza, "Mkiingia mliacha details kwa gate?" Nikamwambia, cause mimi tulitoka kwenye tumetoka, tukaingia na gari. So I didn't know mtu anafaa kuacha details kwa gate. Let me call the person I came to see. You talk to that person, ndo akueleze. So they called the person actually akamwambia, "Yeah, we've been here, we came this day." Na tumekuwa na hizo siku zote. So vile waliona ni more than 2 days, wako like, there's no need hata kuweka details kwa gate. So wakaniambia niende. So since that day, ndo tuko like kumate tena, it changed. After the location change after nimeambiwa niache details kwa gate. So that's when actually he decided to take me to another place.
So does that mean si hapo place alikuwa naishi? Maybe ilikuwa B&B.
It was an Airbnb.
It was not his home.
It's not his home. Yeah.
How did you found out after you were told to leave details there? Because you didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So the place changed.
The place changed. Yeah, so we went to another B&B. Actually, he was taking me to another B&B in Mirema. TRM Drive and Mirema, it's not far. Yeah, so that's why actually he used to take me. Yeah.
So mkaendelea tu kudate.
Tukaendelea kudate, but bado nilikuwa namuuliza, mbona, why don't you want to take me to where you are staying?
Because these are
this is another new place. He was like, "No, I just don't want to take you to where I was staying." Nikamuuliza why? Akaniambia he has visitors.
All that time.
Nikamuuliza all that time. Yeah, akaniambia hivyo na hivyo. Nikamwambia sawa basi. All along actually siku notice maybe ameniplania kitu mbaya or something is going to happen, until now I got pregnant. Now that's when he changed toward me.
Ulifilaje?
At first niliogopa kwa sasa unashinda sasa utamwambia aje? How will the person react and all that? Because actually the moment I found out I'm pregnant ilikuwa some weeks, ilikuwa isha kwa some weeks later. So I was like, how will he react? Unajua pia he's not a Kenyan, anaweza kataa pregnancy. So I was very much confused and all that. But the moment I was calling him and texting him, alini-ignore by the way.
After we break the news to him.
After I break the news to him, akanyamaza. But sasa mimi ni ule msumbufu. Kept calling. Dakika mwisho akashika simu zangu. Akanitetesha, akaniambia, "Hey, why did you get pregnant? Did I tell you like I want a kid?" Yeah? I'm like, it's a mistake.
Well, and you were in a relationship, so I'm assuming.
Then I'm like, see, we're in a relationship and all that. Then that's when he told me like he was dating another lady.
Oh.
And I didn't know.
And so this cannot happen now.
This cannot happen. So I asked him a question. Okay, if you knew all along you had another lady, mbona hukuniambia? Unajua ni kama you're making a fool out of me.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me. I didn't know there was another lady or something like that. I just came to notice there was another lady after. So na nikachanganyikiwa.
Of course.
Nikachanganyikiwa. Nikashindwa sasa nitafanya nini. But actually he agreed to meet me. We met and all that. And that's when actually he told me to get rid of the pregnancy because hakuwa anataka mtoto. Yeah, but at first I refused. Nikamwambia no, I won't get rid. Actually hata ningekuwa na hizo messages ningeonyesha. Nilimwambia pana, there's no way I'm going to get rid of the baby. I'm going to, kama utaki mtoto mimi nitalea peke yangu.
But he could not have that.
Yeah, he could not take it. Then unajua nile alienda kuniaccuse ati, how can you get pregnant? Did you not know I'm a traveler?
A relationship can work with a traveler.
It can work very well. I know
but
some people
won't.
But a pregnancy won't. So nikaona acha tu basi nifanye Kenya nafanya kwa sababu anataka, kwa sababu sasa hatutaendelea tu kusumbuana.
So he was even funding this.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, he was even ready to fund it. Na akanipea hiyo pesa and all that. Yeah.
And then what happened next?
So after all that, una imagine umeambiwa umepata you're pregnant, umeambiwa get rid of it, umeaccept, get rid of it. Haya, na nikaendelea. So after nimekaa, he wasn't talking to me and all that. So mimi nikamuuliza, kwani wewe wewe mtu aina gani? Umeniambia to get rid of the pregnancy and yet you don't want to even know how vile ninaendelea or something like that. Umenyamaza tu uko.
Una deal tu na hizi
mina deal tu peke yangu kabisa. Na actually usisahau pia ameniambia nisiambie mtu. So nobody knew about the pregnancy and all that.
Even your friends?
Even my friends. So dakika mwisho nikamwambia, sasa mimi if you're not going to show up ama ukuje uone vile naendelea or something like that, then itabidi sasa mimi niambia watu because getting rid of something it comes with a lot. That's when I told him that. The moment I told him that, that's when he started. So dakika ya mwisho nikamnyamazia for a while. Kumnyamazia for a while, that's when I noticed nikitembea nafuatwa.
Una identify hizi faces za watu wanakufuata like they're the very same ones?
Hata sikuwa nawajua.
Okay.
Different people everywhere and it's not a coincidence. So siku moja he did a mistake. Akanifuata tu nyuma. Lakini sijua alikuwa anaongea na nani na simu. Na ni kama sijua kwa on the same line because he was shouting. Mimi nikitembea, unajua ukitembea wewe umefocus where you're heading to. So the moment I heard his voice, unajua mtu kama huyo mwenye umekaa hizo months ni mingi from May towards the end of the year. So nikasikia voice yake. He was really shouting like actually alikuwa anasema he doesn't look back, she doesn't look back. Hivyo ndo alisema. Kusikia hiyo sauti nikaturn. The moment niliturn na akaniangalia akaona nimemnotice. Do you know what he did? Akadisappear. But I noticed the car. Actually sile gari nye alikuwa anaendesha tukimiti, it was a Mazda. The first one was a Mercedes. This one was a Mazda Demio. Nikasema hapana, let me try to follow this car. Maybe nione kama I can take even at least the number plate. Nimepanda hadi bike. Tumemfuata lakini he drove very fast. Atunge catch up naye. So that's when I noticed, ni kama tu amekuwa basi akinifuata yeye na ni kama amekuwa akichange cars because actually kama angenifuata na Mercedes ningejua because actually I have even the number plate. So that's why he didn't use that car. He used different cars. Sasa from then ndo nikaona hapana. Hapa na nikakumbuka ile statement. If you tell someone hivi. And then sasa unakutata kumbe siye peke yake alikuwa ananifuata. Different people. Of which it wasn't even a coincidence. Una imagine umeshoka kama 3. Unaenda tu kwenye unaenda.
Kuna mtu.
Na the moment ukisimama cause now unajua ukitembea mtu anakufuata you'll notice. Ukisimama unakutamua mtu tena anasimama. But I couldn't even recognize their faces. So siku moja nikapata courage. Na huyo mtu mwenye alinifuata it was just a young man. Nikapata courage, nilikuwa usiku. Amenifuata. Nikasimama. Kusimama naye akasimama. Nikasema acha tusimame tukae tuone. Tukae. Akaona sitembei, akaanza kutembea. Nikamapproach.
Akia nani? What time is this you're doing this?
It was at night at around 7-8.
Are you not afraid?
I was afraid.
Lakini courage nayo unataka kuiforce. Unajua nilikuwa na photo to a point, kuna siku hata nilisindikizwa na watchman. I was afraid to that point. Nikaenda tu nikamwambia watchman hapana, I can't go alone. So uliposimama ukamquestion?
Nikamuuliza, I noticed you're following me. Akaanza kusema hapana, sikufuati. Nikamwambia hapana, I know you're following me because nimesimama pia na ukasimama. So hiyo tu ni direct unanifuata. Na just tell me the truth kwa sababu sitaacha uende saa. Kama utaniambia ukweli, I'll call the police.
Alikuwa Mkenya huyu?
Yeah, he was a Kenyan na young, ni kama bado ni student. Yeah, so hapo ndo akaona police and all that. Unajua nilikuwa nimesema sasa nitakosa hata drama watu wakuje. So the moment unajua ni barabara, people are passing.
So ni place public.
Yeah, so if nikiamua kureact, ningereact. You get? So that's when alifanya nini? Akaamua kusema ukweli. Mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa na mtu fulani.
Akataja jina ya your ex.
Mention even the name of the person. Kutaja jina. Nilishtuka. Nikamuuliza na kwa nini amekwambia unifuate? Ati alikuwa anasema tu tukufuate, tujue we just monitor you, tuone vile wali unaenda and all that. So after I saw the car
and then these random people,
nika approach mtu. You get? So I was like, oh, you've been following me since. So ni kama kumaanisha since I told him I was pregnant, hiyo process yote ni kama amekuwa akinifuata. Na ni kumaanisha he tracked my number. Because it's not a coincidence, you know? That's when I knew my life is somewhere in danger.
Did you report this to the authorities at some point?
Yeah, immediately I went to Kawendani police station. Nikaelezea the same situation. Nikawaambia hata nilikutana na mtu, nikamuuliza, akaniambia na akamention jina yake. Because actually the guy was also schooling in Kenyatta University. But I'm not sure. That's what he told me. But alikuwa anaenda shule. So it means
probably he
was there. So because kijana mwenye alikuwa ananifuata also, he's a student. In Kenyatta University, same school. So nikaenda nikaambia askari the same thing and all that. Wakasema acha tumpigie simu, tupe namba yake, tumpigie simu. Akapigiwa simu, akaulizwa, do you know Ann? Akasema yes. Who is she to you? Actually hata kusema tuna date, akasema she's my friend. So at least he didn't deny. Akaniambia amekuja na claims police station. Hivi. Would you come to police station? Akasema atapatikana hiyo siku, labda kuje the next day in the morning. Haya, tukasema ni sawa. Immediately after amepigiwa na askari, akanicall. Askari akasema weka speaker. Alikuwa nadhani nishatoka police station. Same threats.
Alisema nini the words?
Hey, why are you taking me to the police? You get it, we can just meet and talk about this. Unajua hivyo, but it's not threat kabisa but vile alikuwa anaongea you could tell. Nikakata simu mara kwanza, tena akapiga tena, hatukuelewana vizuri. So those police, they were two actually, a lady and a guy. Wakaniambia two things, ukitoka hapa hivi hata akikupigia simu kwambie you meet, don't. Acha kuja hapa police station, we talk, don't meet him. Hata kusitoka aje, don't meet him.
Yeye alienda kwa polisi.
He came to the police station. Lakini magari alikuja nazo. Watu alikuwa kwa hiyo gari.
Alikuja na rende.
Range Rover na watu wanakaa. Hata mimi niliona kwanza,
ukaogopa.
Nikashtuka, nikasema okay. Hakukuja peke yake. Yes, he came with some friends, I guess on our school together, but ile nini yenye alikuja na two cars. One was arranged, the other one hata sikumbuki ilikuwa gani.
But the person magari intimidating.
Yes. Hata mimi nilifika kwanza kutetemeka, you know.
Alikuwa amejam hiyo time akikuja kwa polisi ama he was just calm?
He was just calm, amekatwa hapo. Okay. Ametulia. Hata vile aliniona tu, ananiangalia tu.
Wewe saizi uko tu tensed.
Na mimi niko tensed, niko tu.
What did he say to the police?
So tukaingia kwa police, tukaulizwa maswali. He didn't deny anything. Because bado vile nilienda kwa police, niliwaambia the same story. Hata vile alirudi, I repeated the same story. So vile tulimit relationship and all that, he didn't deny. Place yenye ali deny ni the moment aliulizwa yo mali, why are you stalking this lady? And all that. That's when he was like, I'm not stalking her. Why should I stalk her? Nikamwambia you're lying. Hata askari akamwambia she has some proof. Kuna mtu alipata na akamuuliza. But I regret, I wish I could have
recorded it even.
Yeah, ama ningechukua namba huyo the young man. Because it could have been easier. Sikuchukua namba. Ningeprove. Akasema pana, she can't just come out of nowhere and say unamstalk. And actually she even had your voice, even the car you're driving. So
why you looked back mkaangaliana?
Na tukaangaliana hivi. Na the moment aliona nimemnotice
kabisa pia.
Na the moment hata nikachukua bike nikajaribu kumfuata cause nilitaka kuchukua cause the first car I had the number plate. So I wanted this number plate. But too bad. Ilinipita tu hivyo cause he drove very fast, you know. So hapo hivyo akasema pana, I wasn't stalking and all that and all that. Askari akasema mimi sitaki maneno mingi cause huyo madam amekuja hapa ameleta crime. And actually that was the second time. The first time nili report, askari aliniambia are you sure? Hebu kwanza kaa monitor then you'll come back. So this was the second time I was reporting. Yeah. So the askari was like, she's reporting it for the second time.
Must be serious.
Yeah. So he was just told, just know, if anything happens to this lady, you'll be our first suspect.
That's what he was told.
That's what he was told. Nikaulizwa, do you have anything to add? Because as one job police station was hata kama niko na bitterness because of pregnancy and all that, I couldn't even talk about it because the police don't deal with those issues. So mimi nikatoka, akaambiwa ongelesha, you can talk to her and all that. So tukatoka hapo, akaniongelesha, but hata vile alikuwa anaongea hata tuko tunaelewana. Shouting and all that. Nikamwambia hatuelewani, you know, you just go. If you want to talk to me, well and good. If you don't want to talk to me also.
At this point, hakukuwa na relationship between the two of you anymore?
No, it wasn't there anymore. Even the feelings I had for him,
it's kind.
Because now sasa tu hata nikimwona.
What's the most scary thing aliwahi kuambia in the course of all these threats? Ni nini you stick na wewe mpaka saizi? Alisema yenye inafanya hata uogope.
In hiyo tu, the words that he used, I'll get rid of you.
I'll get rid of you.
I'll get rid of you.
Because of going to the police?
Because of going to the police. He felt like I was threatening, yeah? Yeah.
Was this before or after these cases that we've had and seen, the Airbnb killings and all of that?
It was before. And that's why actually when I was on the other interview, ili mention, ili ningia kwa kichwa to fact that I was like, maybe these people actually are killing Kenyan ladies because of me. Maybe. Ili ningia to my head, you know, paranoid.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because now the killings actually started after I reported him, because nimemreport mara mbili. The first one was in Kawendani and he showed up. The second one was in Kaoskari. But when I went to Kaoskari, he wasn't called. They report to wakaniandikia statement na wakanipea OP. And that was towards the end of December. So unaona killings zilianza this year January. So you can join the dots. Nikaanza kuworry.
Yeah.
And sasa ukuna katu hivi weekend mtu fulani ameuliwa Nigerian. Kidogo tena ingine Nigerian. I was like, jeez, I am next.
Is that the point where you changed your phone number?
I changed my phone number, I changed my email, I changed my password, I changed everything. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think you're very courageous to even choose to open up about this, because a young girl as you and all these things that you've gone through, it could have just ended to be a good, beautiful relationship, but then it's out of your control now. Why are you choosing to tell this story now?
For me, actually, I wanted to tell my story because living under threat is not easy. Because now as I'm speaking, I don't know if he's still in Kenya or outside Kenya, because the whole of this year, it's not the whole of this year, well, we haven't spoken.
Yeah, he's not reached out.
He hasn't reached out, so you never know what somebody is planning. You never know. So that's why I chose to tell my story to enlighten young girls out there, to be careful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about your experience. I think you have a lot of courage to choose to share your story this publicly. And my hope is that you get healing, because all this worry, all this fear and not knowing what this person is planning or where they are is enough to get you to have sleepless nights. I hope that you get healing and closure at some point.
I hope so.
What's the one advice you have for young girls out there who are looking at your story and they think probably mine is a harmless one, or I don't know what to do with my situation? Given what you know now, what would you have done differently?
For me, actually, if I if I could take back everything and all that, I don't think I could have,
given him even that
number. Yeah, and meeting him and all that. Yeah, if I knew. Yeah. So what I can tell girls, if someone approaches you and all that, okay, it's okay. Just take the approach, hear them out, but be careful. Take your time. Just take your time to know someone and all that. But also, the important thing, be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful. Yeah.
So now, has this tainted your perception about relationships or love in general? Do you think you will ever get to a point where you're completely healed, you're ready to date again? Do you think you will ever get to that point, or this is still a process for you too?
It's a process, because I have to heal. I have to gain that trust towards men and all that. Yeah.
And I'm wishing you all the best in that process. I do hope that you meet someone who is genuine, who will treat you the way you're supposed to be treated, like the queen you are. How can people reach you?
Okay, you can reach me via my Instagram, Patrice Wanjiru with an _. And also, I have a YouTube channel. Is it follow? Subscribe,
like,
to
share, comment.
To my YouTube channel.
What's the name?
And Patrice also Wanjiru.
And Patrice Wanjiru
without an _. And Patrice Wanjiru. Yeah. Instagram and Patrice Wanjiru with an _.
You told me you are a fashionista. Tell me a little about your business and who do you serve? Who are your customers? Who are your clients?
Actually, mimi ni kila mtu wa ladies, men. Yeah, so that when you approach me, unajua, when you get a client, anakuambia vile anataka kwanza. So unapata client, unamuongelesha, anakuambia I want this and this and this. Then just
you go and look for clothes and designs to
suit the person.
Okay. They charge you. You charge them for this.
I do. Okay. It's a business. But most people have approached me actually. They're not bragging. It's people from outside the country.
Wow. And all these pictures are on Instagram of some of the people you've dressed?
Right now, no, because actually even my Instagram account was hacked.
No way.
Yeah.
So you started a fresh one?
A fresh one. Yeah, so my Instagram was hacked, my YouTube was hacked, even my phone was hacked.
After you met this person?
Yeah.
But I'm glad you've opened up. I do hope that someone learns something from your experience and they choose better. And if they find themselves in a situation kama yako, they know where to run to before things go. Before things get worse.
Before things get worse. Share. Usikwe kama mimi mwenye niliambiwa don't.
Ukanyamaza.
Even my own family, I was afraid maybe I'll tell them something bad, because I have relatives in Nairobi, but I haven't approached them. I haven't talked to them. I haven't gone to their place because the moment I noticed my phone was tracked, it means ningeenda even at my relative's place now I expose. So niliamua acha tu nizurure.
Yeah, this is your life now.
This is my life now.
Unaendelea na masomo?
Yeah, naendelea na masomo. Actually, I'm on my final year. Fourth year, I'm graduating July. Yeah.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I do hope that hii ndio itakuwa platform yako ya grow even bigger. Yeah. Some of these challenges we encounter niza to slow down too.
Yeah,
just a bump on the road. But then you pick up your pieces and forge forward.
Yeah.
Nothing should stop you. I wish you all the best. No, tuambie graduation to celebrate.
Yeah, lazima niwaite muni ekeka kakeki.
Wow. Yeah. Tuko family, I do hope that you have learned a thing or two from Anne's experience. And if you're there, you're wondering what to do with your situation, you're probably dating someone who's becoming a bit difficult in your relationship, you do not know where to go, you could talk to her and have her, walk you through this journey and have someone who at least understands your situation. And thank you so much for staying with us till the end of the show. My name is Yvonne Kawira. Until next time, keep it Tuko.